Well, hey, happy 4th of July weekend to you, and it'll be over by the time you see this, but I wanted to make a quick video before we headed off for our 4th of July weekend with family and fun and all that kind of good stuff. But I wanted to talk about your favorite items in your collection. Everybody has favorite items. Now, we like to say things we'd never part with, but you know, you can part with things. Things are just things. They're not the most important part of life. But those things that you would part with last. I have a few of those items that I wanted to show you. And of course, for us comic fans, a lot of them sometimes are signed comics or signed artwork, which this is obviously one of those things. This is ROM Space Knight #1. I'm a big ROM fan, always have been. And this particular one has been signed by a Sharpie, a black Sharpie by Stan Lee, Sal Buscema, and Jim Shooter. Right there on page 1. That's one of my favorite items. One of these days I'll get it authenticated and graded and all that kind of stuff. But for right now, I'm just enjoying it, and it's one of those things I don't perceive getting rid of anytime soon. Here's another item, and that is my Captain America bookplate signed by Joe Simon. The only Joe Simon signature I have. I have very precious few signatures by Golden Age artists. But there is that came in a book I bought years ago, had that matted and framed, but nothing like a piece of Captain America, even a reproduction art, obviously, but signed by Joe Simon, co-creator of Cap. Now, oftentimes you see this back here in the background, this particular piece of artwork. This is Batman and Deathstroke the Terminator. That's always hanging in the background of my videos. And that was done actually by Steve Irwin, the artist of the first ongoing Deathstroke series back in the late 80s, early 90s. But anyway, Steve Irwin, just a great artist, very underrated artist if you ask me. He also was the artist on Checkmate, the first Checkmate series for a long time. But I like the little caption he did at the bottom, little personalized caption. Steve Irwin says, "Blasted bat shadow gives me away every time," Batman says as he's trying to get the drop on the Terminator there. So great piece of artwork right there. And lastly, just to share something with you, this is one of those dreams come true. This is a letter that came to me from a particular comic book artist and legend. Can you read that? Steve Ditko. Steve Ditko. And I got this letter actually just less than a year before he passed, and I'm so glad I did. It's one of those letters that it's one of those things that's it's at a high point of a collecting life, and just, you know, I had written him as a fan, just talking about what an impact he had made on pop culture. It wasn't a long letter, but it is interesting. Some of the things that he wrote here, I'll just read it for you. It's very short. It says, "Every comic book artist has his followers, his influences. There's the old expression, even junk sells. It was through Wally Wood's wit's end where I was able to create Mr. A. I really don't know what is meant by pop culture." I had said that he really had influenced pop culture. "As a freelance artist, my focus is always on what's next. Yesterday, etc. is like ancient history. Regards, Steve Ditko." And just really enjoyed that. I really also, it's kind of interesting, I think he didn't care for my handwriting very much. As I wrote my return address on there at the time we were living in a different town. But he said, let's see, what it was, "You ever hear of clarity?" So I'm going to say that means he didn't care for my handwriting. Although I've noticed that his writing, I'm not sure it was any better or not. But anyway, so letter from Steve Ditko. That's a comic fan's dream, and I'm glad to have it. Anyway, I'd love to hear about some of your prized collections. So either, you know what, don't even put comments down there. Do a video. You guys do a video of some of your most prized possessions in your collection. Anyway, have a happy 4th, and we'll see you next video.